योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचां मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोत्तं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि आबाहुपुरुषाकारं शङ्खचक्रासिधारिणं सहस्रशिरसं श्वेतं प्रणमामि पतञ्जलिं गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुर्गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः हरिः ओम. So last time we finished our background on prana as well as looking at the sutra 2.49 tasmin sati shvasa prashvasayoho gati vichchedah pranayamah. Now we continue with the next sutra, which says Satu, says Vyasa. Satu means, and now that pranayama, about it. Then comes the sutra 2.50 that says Bhayyabhyantara-stamba vrittir deshakala sankhyaabhi paridrushto dirgha sukshmaha. So this is a long sutra which elaborates further on the pranayama, which was described as Shvasa Prashvasa Yoho Gati Vichchedaha. So we have looked at what is prana, what is pranayama, what is the relation between prana and shvasa. Shvasa referring to breathing, prana referring to that entity that we have already talked about. And we looked at how specific act related to shvasa prashvasa leads to or is known as pranayama, and how does that fit in, how does that make sense, even though shvasa and prana are two different things. So that we have looked at in detail. Furthermore, we have looked at the specific meaning to be ascribed to the word shvasa here, because Vyasa has specifically defined as Bahyasya vayoho achamanam shvasaha koshtyasya vayoho nissaranam prashvasaha, etc. So here we have seen that the term shvasa prashvasa, even though referring to breathing and in some sense, has a specific meaning in the context of pranayama. Now the elaboration comes in this next sutra that we are looking at now, the 2.50, that says Bhaya Abhyantara Stamba Vrittihi, which refers to Bhaya Vritti, Abhyantara Vritti and Stamba Vritti being joined in a compound word. Bhaya means external or outer, Abhyantara means internal, Stamba means something in ceasing of activity, stopping, non-moving, that is Stamba. So those are the meanings of those three words. So Bhaya Vritti is the state, the external state of it, or the external activity of it. Abhyantara refers to the internal, and Stamba refers to that which is still. Then Bhaya Abhyantara Stamba Vritti Desha Kala Sankhyaabhi means by. By what? Desha means region. Kala means time or duration. Sankhya means number. So by region, by time or duration, and by number. Paridrushtaha. Paridrushtaha means, let us say, examined from this point of view. That is paridrushta, looked at from this point of view. So that is paridrushta, through this perspective. Right? So which perspective? Desha perspective, Kala perspective, Sankhya perspective, etc. Dirgha Sukshmaha. What is Dirgha Sukshmaha? The pranayama. Because Satu started with. So it is a qualifying word, a describing word for pranayama. Dirgha means long. Long can be in physical dimension or long can be in the dimension of time. In this case, dirgha specifically mostly refers to the duration of time by being kala vyapi. The pranayama, the shvasa prashvasa can be dirgha here in terms of time. Also, it can be in terms of its reach. The reach of the shvasa and the reach of the prashvasa, the length, so to speak. Because ayama also means lengthening, spreading. So the dirgha is kala vyapi, and also it is sort of the reach of those acts. And then sukshma. Sukshma means subtle, not gross. So sukshma in which sense? Sukshma in terms of the vayu sanchara, the flow of the vayu specific to the shvasa and prashvasa as kriyas are sukshma, subtle. And therefore, dirgha sukshmaha pranayamaha. Okay, that is a qualifying word. Then, this dirgha sukshmaha pranayamaha is examined from what perspective? From the following perspective. Bharyabhyantara stamba vrittir desha kala sankhyabihi. So, from the perspective of Bhaya Vritti, that is the external, where the prashvasa is in picture, the sending the air outward. So, from that perspective, then Abhyantara Vritti, where the shvasa purvaka, the getting the air in, Stamba Vritti, keeping the air still within, or what is often termed as retention, Stamba Vritti. Further, Desha, region, Kala, time, Sankhya, number. So by all of these different facets or dimensions examined in this way, paridrishtaha. What is examined? Pranayama is examined. And what then? It is dirgha sukshmaha. That again is we've seen what that means. That is a describing word of pranayama. So essentially this sutra describes that pranayama as dirgha sukshmaha and paridrishtaha. Then in what sense paridrishtaha? There is a list of things. Bhaya abhyantara sambhavrutti desha kala sankhyabihi. In this sense, paridrishtaha, that is pranayama. So that is the meaning of the sutra itself and its terms. 2.50.
So the pranayam sutra is an extension of the sutra. The previous sutra just told us tasmin shati swasa prachvasa gati vichhedaha pranayamaha. And in order to say that it is part of that sutra, the enunciation is with sa tu. So therefore, the two sutras together are definition of pranayam. So here he mentions the other aspects to complete the definition. The first sutra itself is not a complete definition, and therefore Vyasa gives an enunciation by way of sa tu Bharyabhyantara stamba vritti deshakala sankhyavi paridrushtaha. So if we have to understand the definition or consider the definition of the Sutra of Pranayam, it implies that we must consider both the sutras 49 and 50. So here the pranayam is to be examined for it to be called as pranayam. Otherwise, our breathing which is going on, that is not a pranayam by itself. It has certain regulatory facets. And that regulatory facets only make it pranayam. It's not otherwise we are doing 21,600 cycles per day. They are all pranayamic cycles. So, because we do not have breath examination while we are intaking the breath or while we are expelling the breath is not really examined. But here, the word paridrushtaha, as you heard just now, it implies that it is not only done involuntarily, but it is not only done voluntarily, but there are certain dimensions considered whereby it becomes pranayam. So that's why we are used to the concept breath regulation. So this is what common man understands pranayam as regulation. And that regulation needs the aspect of paridrushtata. So it is by desha. Now, this gives us a bit of clue that there is no reference to merely respiratory breathing, because we do not do respiratory breathing in various locations of body, our embodiment. But here there is reference to desha. That means the breath is not just confined to respiratory location or the respiratory organs and their locations, but then it is more pervasive. It can work from various and include other locations as well. So desha. Then the kala. The kala means the duration of the breath, and duration of the breath depends upon two factors. The same amount of breath, let us quantify, same amount of breath can be taken with a longer chronological time involved. So let's say volume A of in-breath. At volume A, if it is done slowly, it will take longer time. If it is done quickly, it will take shorter time. So the kala, the time, would be either more or less, depending upon the velocity of the breath and density of the breath. The other factor which works on the kala is that when you are going to take more amount of breath, quantitatively, if you are doubling your breath, then that also will work on time factor. So if you are going to take the breath A plus B volume, then it will be different time duration there. So there is reference to velocity of the breath and volume of the breath when the kala is considered. So also with the case of desha, when the breath is, say, A amount, then it will involve and it will permeate a limited region. But suppose it is A plus something or A square, it will be volume more region. So desha also has that aspect of which corresponds to more or less volume of breath. Less volume of breath may not need much area, but more volume of breath might need more area. So also less velocity of the breath may not have penetration to greater area, but greater velocity of the breath will have greater reach. So the desha also will depend upon the velocity of the breath and density of the volume of the breath. Then sankhya, and this is important thing to be noted so that we don't confuse it with deep breathing. We can take a deep breath, and that deep breath doesn't become pranayamic breath, although there is some kind of conditioning in it. Because if you voluntarily take greater amount of in-breath or greater amount of out-breath is expelled, but that is with reference to one cycle, and that usually we do it. So, therefore, it won't become pranayam. By one cycle of breath conditioned, it doesn't become pranayam. It implies that there must be multiple cycles. It must be a cluster of the customized breath, devised breath, and there must be replication of that. It's not that deeper, first cycle deeper, second cycle deeper, third cycle deeper, but then if it is heterogeneously in different volumes, then it won't be pranayam. So it needs to be replicated kind of breath. So we need to replicate the breath qualitatively and quantitatively in pranayam. This is also a point to be noted. So desha kala sankhya. And then dirgha sukshmaha. So when the breath is so handled and conditioned, the breath can either become, pranayam will either become dirgha or pranayam will become sukshma. So pranayam will become dirgha if you decide to take more amount of breath in multiple cycles. You decide to take double in breath and make double out breath, then you will be having a smaller cluster. So there is correspondence with the dirghata and sukshmata with deshakali paridrushtata. So all these various factors for regulation of breath in pranayam are mentioned here. So pranayam will be either dirgha or sukshma, rather than common understanding of breath becoming dirgha and sukshma. The reference is not to the breath, because breath can become deep in the sense dirgha. Dirgha also means long, dirgha also means deep, and the sukshma means becoming subtle or also becoming with lesser cycles. Small number of cycles, small number of clusters. So cluster can be small or cluster can be large. So these technicalities are to be understood, comprehended by a thought process with regards to breath. How the breath can be modified and modulated, in what are the dimensions to modify and modulate the breath and breathing if it has to become pranayam. Otherwise, our breath is constantly modified. We don't have replicated kind of breathing going on. So there are spikes in our breathing. The spirometer will tell you that our breathing is never consistent. For various reasons, the breath will be constantly modifying. It sometimes becomes dirgha, sometimes becomes sukshma, sometimes becomes lesser in desha paridrushtata, sometimes more in paridrushtata. Sometimes naturally there is a deeper breathing. So it's not that it's like a machine in place that we are going to breathe consistently. So the breath is spasmodic because of the vrittis and because of our movements of body and mind. The breath rate is going to change. So just because the breath rate is changed, it is not pranayam. So there has to be some kind of examination whereby we see that there is some kind of consistency in essential pranayam. As a raw beginner, one will not be able to have consistency in the breath, but a consistency factor has to come in sooner or later. If not sooner, at least later. So anyway, the factors which condition the breath in pranayam is being now specified. This is so important to really understand pranayam. Otherwise, we will think pranayam is just deep breathing. Do a couple of deep breaths and that's pranayam. That is not true. So there are certain specifications, and those specifications are mentioned here. Okay.
Now let's look at Vyasa's bhashya on this. So Vyasa starts by saying, Yatra prashvasa purvako gatya bhavaha sa bhayyaha. So he is going in line, bhaya, abhyantara, stambha, vritti, etc. and explaining what each of those mean. So what is bhaya? Yatra prashvasa purvakaha gatya bhavaha sa bhayyaha. So where the gati abhava, the breaking of the velocity, the regulation of that velocity is with respect to prashvasa. Prashvasa is koshtyasya vayoho bahirihi nissaranam, which usually we say exhalation, letting out of the air, but which vayu we have already seen that. Koshtyam means antarjataram, the inner organs, which include the abdominal organs, the pelvic organs, etc. That vayu being let out through the act of the specific pranayamic act of exhalation, which is called prashvasa. That regulation, that breaking of that velocity of it, regulating the velocity of it, that is known as the bahya. Then the next, yatra shvasa purvakaha agatya bhavaha sa abhyantaraha. So what is abhyantara? It is a similar gati abhava, but this time with respect to shvasa. Shvasa is a vidivat, as per the prescribed way, the drawing in of air, which we call inhalation, but there is a specific kind of inhalation because it has said vayoho achamanam in the previous sutra's bhashya. So that is shvasa. So that while taking in that air, applying that gatya bhavaha is known as abhyantara. So regulating that act is known as the abhyantara aspect by which one is to examine the pranayama. Tritiya, the third, stamba vrittir yatra ubhaya bhavaha sakrut prayatnat bhavati. So the third is a stamba vritti. Stamba means cessation, stopping, ceasing, stillness. That kind of a vritti where ubhaya bhavaha, there is the absence of both. Both means which two? Shvasa and prashvasa. Neither are happening. Further, there is a qualification being said here. Stamba vritti specifically refers to sakrit prayatnat bhavati. One instant attempt, a single attempt, or so essentially it is a what we call a type of a retentive act where both the inhalation and exhalation is stopped, and that stillness is brought in a single act of simply stopping that immediately. That is stamba vritti. Because why is this mentioned this way? Because later a separate one will be mentioned, which is often referred to in text as kevala kumbhaka, etc. So that we'll see when we look at the next sutra. So in this sutra we have to understand that in this case, in this stamba vritti, there is the drawing in of air, there is the letting out of air, and then there is one where both of them are stopped as part of a single effort together immediately. Sakrit prayatnam. So that is known as stamba vritti. So that is retention by simply not allowing drawing in of air and not letting air out. So that is stamba vritti. Yatha. Then an analogy is given. Yatha tapte nyastam upale jalam sarvatah sankocham apadyate tatha dvayor yugapad bhavatya bhavah iti. So if there is a hot pan, completely heated pan, and there is a drop of water on it, it immediately vanishes, the drop of water, because it vaporizes. That vaporizing happens sarvataha, from all sides. So whatever water was there, say as a circular blob, all sides of the circle, the size reduces and it vanishes. So that is sarvataha, and it happens immediately. Sankocham apadyate, from all sides it gets reduced and it is completely stopped. Tata, in that manner, Tvayoho yugapat, together stopping of both shvasa and prashvasa. That kind of stopping, which normally we call retention, because both inhalation and exhalation is suddenly stopped. So that is stamba vrittihi. So here, essentially, the bahya, abhyantara and stamba vritti has been described by Vyasa to make sure that we understand what those terms, because a single word has been mentioned in the sutra, so Vyasa has to make sure that the correct understanding is there. So he describes that each of those one by one. Elsewhere, I'll sort of take a slight deviation from the bhashya at this point, because this is also, there are terms called rechaka puraka kumbhaka, which can be associated with this. So it is said, yatra pranayame gativichchede prashvasa purvaka gatya bhavaha satu bahyo bahya vrittihi pranayamo rechakanama ityarthaha. So essentially this is known as rechaka. What? The first one, the bahya. Because yatra pranayame, in pranayam, gati vichchede, when the gati vichcheda is being done, it is prashvasa purvaka gatya bhavaha. It is pertaining to the prashvasa, which is exactly what the first bahya refers to, because Vyasa has said yatra prashvasa purvako gatya bhavaha sa bahyaha. So that one is prashvasa purvaka gatya bhavaha satu bahyaha bahya vrittihi pranayamo rechakanama ityarthaha. So this is known as rechaka. So we'll soon see that there is a difference often made between rechaka and rechaka pranayama, because in most texts pranayam is referred synonymously with the state of kumbhaka, where the stillness has been achieved. So when we say Rechaka Pranayama, usually or in other texts, that particular term Rechaka Pranayama refers to the Stambha Vritti that follows the Rechaka Kriya. After Rechaka has been done as described here, then the stillness that is brought in, that is known as Rechaka Pranayama, and we'll see that. But before that, just like this is known as Rechaka, the other one is known as Puraka. So Yatra Shwasena Purakena Gatyabhavaha Sa Abhyantaraha Abhyantara Vrittihi Pranayamaha Purakanama Ityarthaha. So the Shwasena Purakena. So Rechake is also about getting rid of something. Because as Guruji often says, the exhalation in pranayama removes the toxins of the body and the mind, he said. Whereas the puraka, that the drawing in of breath in pranayama, Guruji used to say, is filling the embodiment with the universal energy. So the puraka, and in several texts it has been mentioned, it says Anaka Padatala, right from the nose to the nails to each and every pore, the air that has been drawn in has to be distributed. So the drawing in is Puraka, the distribution and retention is Puraka Pranayama or Puraka Sahita Kumbhaka. So the Yatra Shwasena Purakena Gatyabhavaha Sa Abhyantaraha Abhyantara Vritti Pranayamaha Purakanama Ityarthaha. So then it says, so I am Antaraha Kumbhakaha Puritasya Anta Pradesha Dharanat. So here now it comes to saying, okay, Puraka has been mentioned. So what is this Puraka Puritasya Kumbhaka? So what is the Kumbhaka here? Whatever has been drawn in, that is Antara Kumbhaka. Whatever has been drawn in, that is Puritasya Anta Pradesha Dharanam. Within the embodiment, holding of that is known as Antara Kumbhaka. Then Rechita Kumbhakaha too. So what is Rechita Kumbhakaha? Bhaya Kumbhakaha. Rechitasya Vayoho Bahihi Sthapanat. So whatever Vayu has been let out, whatever has been let out, sort of placing it outside, that is known as Rechaka Pranayama or Rechita Kumbhaka. So everything has been let out of the body and there the Vayu is held outside, so to speak. So that is, and inside the emptiness is held. So that is known as the Bhaya Kumbhaka. So here we have to understand the Bhaya, Abhyantara and Stambha Vritti as three aspects using which the pranayam is examined or faceted, and then their relation with this Rechanam, Puranam and the two Kumbhakas related to it. Now another place to understand it, so it is said in Jyotsna Vyakhya, it is said, so firstly, what is Rechaka? Bahiryad Rechanam Vayoho Udarat Rechaka Smrtaha. So from the Udara, from the abdomen, pelvis, internal organs, the letting out of Vayu from there is known as Rechaka itself. Okay, so that is Rechaka Lakshanam. Then what is the Rechaka Pranayama Lakshanam? So here the thing to notice is, there are two Lakshanams given. One is for Rechaka, another for Rechaka Pranayama. So Rechaka Pranayama Lakshanam is Nishkramya Nasa Vivarat Ashesham Pranam Bahihi Shunyam Ivanilena Nirchvasans Tishtati Ruddhavayuhu Sarechako Nama Mahanirodha. So Rechaka Pranayama has a specific meaning because this is where the Bhaya Kumbhaka is being mentioned, which is Nishkramya, having let out, Nasa Vivarat, from the nostrils, Ashesham, complete letting out, Pranam, Bahihi, the prana is let out outside, Shunyam Iva Anilena, through the Vayu and made completely empty. Niruchwasan tishtati ruddhavayuhu, without following it with an inhalation, okay, having let out, without any further breathing, the vayu is held still. Sa rechako nama mahanirodha. So the vayu which is let out is held there. It is not, it is held, so to speak, outside of the nostrils in a still condition, and the inner emptiness is held in a still condition. That is known as Rechaka Pranayama. So that is a Rechaka Pranayama Lakshanam. So which is what here the by Bhaya Abhyantara and Stambha Vritti, Patanjali and Vyasa are referring to in somewhat broader terms, because as we have seen earlier in the sutra, the very specific techniques and technology of pranayama in the sutra text have been described in broader terms to sort of circumscribe the various ways of that has been explained. But here we are, as people who are learning it, we should look at the other texts also to understand the different ways it has been described, and how all of them relate to each other, and how all of them as such are saying the same thing. Now, having looked at Rechaka Lakshanam, the characteristic of Rechaka, as well as the Rechaka Pranayama Lakshanam, the characteristic of Rechaka Pranayama, now we will look at Puraka Lakshanam. Bhayyad apuranam vayoho udare purako hi saha. Bhayyad apuranam, from the outside, filling in of the vayu in the udara. Udara again, once again it is the organs of the abdomen and the pelvis and so on. From the outside, filling in, that is known as Puraka. Purako hi saha. So that is the Puraka Lakshanam. Now, Puraka Pranayama Lakshanam. Because in this text, Pranayama refers to that state which is held, which is Kumbhaka, which is held constant. So Pranayama Puraka Lakshanam is Bhayye sthitam Pranaputena Vayum Akrushya Tenaiva Shanaihi Samantat Nadishcha Sarvaha Paripurayedyaha Sa Purako Nama Mahanirodha. Just like for Rechaka Pranayama, the term Mahanirodha was used. The great act of holding still, Mahanirodha. Similarly, Puraka is also a Mahanirodha. In what sense? Bhayye sthitam, the one that is outside. Pranaputena Vayum Akrushya, drawing in that Vayu which is outside through the Pranaputa, through the inlets of Prana, if we were to translate. Tena eva Shanaihi Samantat, by that itself, gradually, completely everywhere. So this Puraka is not just air going into the nostril and into the lungs. Shanaihi Samantat, the entire embodiment is filled with it. Shanaihi Samantat. Nadishcha Sarvaha. How does it fill the embodiment? Through what is known as the Nadis. The Nadis are the channels through which the prana is said to flow or said to reside. So all the Nadis are filled with it. Nadishcha Sarvaha Paripurayedyaha. That act which fills up all these Nadis everywhere, Samantat. Sa Purako Nama Mahanirodha. So having filled, it is retained in that manner. It is established there. That is known as Puraka Pranayama. So it is said Purako Nama Mahanirodha. So then there is the standard description of Kumbhaka where it is held Sampurya Kumbhavad Vayor Dharanam Kumbhako Bhavet. So this is another way of describing the same Puraka Pranayama Lakshanam, where it is completely filled and held. Vayu, like a pot is filled and kept complete. Similarly, it is said that is Kumbhaka. That refers to the Puraka Pranayama Lakshanam. So the reason I mentioned all those things is to get a better understanding of Bhayabhyantara Stambha Vrittihi, those three, and the way that Vyasa has described it as Prashvasa Purvaka Gatyabhavaha Bhayyaha, Shvasa Purvako Gatyabhavaha Sa Abhyantaraha, Tritiyaha Stambha Vrittir Yatra Ubhayo Bhavaha, both of them, Ubhaya Bhava Sakrit Prayatnat, both of them are stopped and there is absence of both Shvasa and Prashvasa, that is Stambha Vrittihi. So those are the three that the first three that Vyasa has explained.
So, Bahya Vritti, Abhyantara Vritti, Stambha Vritti are being described. So, this again gives you a little clue that this is not a reference to breathing. Because in our breathing, what we consider is in-breath and out-breath. Layman considers breathing means in-breath and out-breath. The third dimension is not brought in our concept of breathing. We don't include retention in our breathing. We only include in breathing and out breathing in our concept of breathing. But you will see that the third dimension is very much present here. And the third dimension is also part of breathing. Although it seems to be absence of breathing, it has its functions, and which have gone unnoticed for even common man or even elite class of people who are studying body, studying anatomy. So, the Stambha Vritti or the retention, what is called as retention, is also part of breathing because it has certain functions. So, students of yoga need to take cognizance of this. We know the function of in-breath because the absence of in-breath is going to create some kind of paralysis in us. We know the function of out-breath because absence of out-breath is also going to create some kind of paralysis in us. So some activities are going to go to halt condition. And we don't understand the function of the retention in our breathing. And that's also included in the concept of breathing when it comes to yoga. In-breath is breathing. Outer retention is also breathing. In-breath is breathing. Internal retention is also breathing. And common man should take cognizance of this retentive phase of breathing. Say even our natural acts, if we have to say cough, the cough will come only after an inhalation and slight pause, and then we have the cough coming out. Or even in case of sneezing, if you watch, you take an inhalation and there is a pause for a while to release the breath with a greater flush for sneeze. Because it is said that the velocity of sneezing is something like velocity of a racer car, around 200 miles per hour to 250 miles per hour. With such an enormous velocity, this out breath goes out for our natural act of sneeze. And if you watch before the sneeze, there is a post-inhalative retention for a while. And then we sneeze. So coughing, sneezing, or yawning, the belching, so all these acts are really watched as to what happens a moment before belching, what happens a moment before coughing, what happens a moment before sneezing. There is a retentive phase for such so-called natural activity to take place. And of course it is natural, but it is not normal. It doesn't take place cyclically, like our in-breath and out-breath will be taking place with a greater frequency and regular frequency. But sneeze and cough and belching, yawning are not regular intervals that we get it. But then one needs to observe before these things, which is not observed by common man. Secondly, gulping, act of gulping. So the act of gulping also needs a retentive phase. Otherwise, that act of gulping will not be facilitated and it won't be natural. So the retentive phase is there even in our uh, life without reference to yoga. Because in life we will be having yawning, sneezing, belching, coughing, and gulping. We have to gulp the food, we have to gulp the water. And that phase needs to be observed. How these acts take place and what is happening a moment preceding these acts. And then what are these acts kind of? Sneezing is naturally exhalation. You sneeze with exhalation. You cough with exhalation. We speak with exhalation. Our speech is also exhalative act. So breathing in yoga considers all the three, unlike the common man's view that breathing is in breath and out breath only. But that is not true. So that's why uh, Patanjali mentions Bahya Abhyantara Stambha Vritti. They all have manifestation. They all have function. It's not that we merely live by in breath and live by out breath. Because if we are living, then we also have sneeze and cough and belching and yawning, gulping acts. And this, we need to understand how much the breath plays a role. So all these three phases of breath have a manifestation in the form of function. And these three have manifestation in the form of, say, state of mind. Before you sneeze, you have a discomfort. And after you have sneezed, you have a relief. Sometimes even before a cough, you are a little uncomfortable. And after the cough, you feel some kind of relief. So there is a manifestation of all these. Now, generally it is felt that here is the reference for Puraka, Rechaka, Kumbhaka, or in order of the sutra, the Rechaka, Puraka, and Kumbhaka. It is Rechaka, Puraka, Kumbhaka, but the why is that Patanjali did not mention the terminologies which are so much in the science of yoga, in the technology of yoga. He did not use the word Puraka, Rechaka, Kumbhaka. But he used the word Bahya Vritti and Abhyantar Vritti and Stambha Vritti. There is also worth taking note of and also considering it. Although it means Puraka, Rechaka, Puraka, Kumbhaka, he is not mentioning Rechaka, Puraka, Kumbhaka. So why is this? So the thing is that unless the regulatory factors, Desha, Kala, Sankhya, Paridrushta and Dirgha, Sukshma, unless these are in place according to injunction of the science, then it doesn't become Puraka, Rechaka, Kumbhaka. All our in-breaths are not Puraka. All our out-breaths are not Rechaka. And all our retentions are not Kumbhaka. Because there are certain conditions whereby the in-breath will be called Puraka, out-breath will be called Rechaka, and retention will be called Kumbhaka. All in-breaths are not Puraka, all out-breaths are not Rechaka, and all retentions are not Kumbhaka. So this is why Patanjali doesn't use the terms which are so familiar in the Yoga Shastra or in the science of yoga, like Puraka, Kumbhaka, Rechaka. A simple logic is to be understood here. If we are learning to drive a vehicle, if we are learning to drive a car, we are not said to be driving a car. We are learning to be driving a car because we are not having license to drive a car. Yet we are driving a car. If you look at the motion of the vehicle, then you say that the car is being driven. Who is driving the car? when the person at the steering wheel is driving a car. But the person at the steering wheel is learning to drive a car. And this is so important to understand, because the difference between driving a car and learning to drive a car, there is a big difference. In learning to drive a car, there are so many things which are missing, which are absent, which are excluded while the driver is a learner. Only when that is lessened and there are no such exclusions, and therefore it gets qualified to be said, car is driven, or you are driving a car. If all those vital things are absent, then it is not proper to say that you are driving a car, but you are learning to drive a car. That would be a precise statement. Similarly, when it is learning the conditionings, which Patanjali has mentioned, when the learning is on, then it is not pranayam, and it is not puraka, it is not rechaka, or it is not kumbhaka. So, to include the learner's position, neophyte's position, and as well as proficient, he has used these words rather than using puraka, rechaka, puraka, kumbhaka. Rechaka, puraka, kumbhaka means you have valid learning license and you are not on driving learning license. You have a driving license. And there is a big difference between two licenses, learning license and driving license. So that's why he has not used the word, although we take it as he is meaning to say the same. But he is not meaning to say the same, because it won't be Rechaka Pranayam when it is just exhalation. But however, it will be Bahya Vritti because it is learner. And therefore, many things are absent, vital things are absent in taking an exhalation. In our case, there are so many things absent whereby it doesn't get qualified to call Rechaka. But when those things are taken care of, then only it becomes Rechaka. When we are inhaling, it is not called Puja Pura, because so many things which are absent, which should be present. And when these absent things are not there, and now they are all present in that in-breath, so it is like a yogi. So just as you need a permanent license to drive a car and not learner's license to drive a car, however, you drive the car in both the cases. And that's why he's not used the word Rechaka, Puraka, Kumbhaka, although it seems to be that he has used the words same, Rechaka, Puraka, Kumbhaka. But he has used the word for precision's sake because its philosophical system and definition. That is why he has opted for Bahya Vritti, Abhyantara Vritti, Stambha Vritti, seems to be referring to Rechaka, Puraka, Kumbhaka, but he doesn't. Because unless you have a permanent driving license in your hand, you are not really said to be driving a car. Before that, you are learning a car. And that's why he has not used the word Rechaka, Puraka, Kumbhaka. But he has used the words which can include Rechaka, Puraka, Kumbhaka, provided you have accomplished the conditions required in ayama, pranayama, ayama, what is called as regulation. So then only it becomes Rechaka, Puraka, Kumbhaka. And we need to appreciate here Patanjali's usage of words, so forensic language, because it is definition, and therefore there should not be over-pervasiveness, under-pervasiveness, lack of qualifications, etc. And therefore he has opted for these words. However, we commonly think that he is referring to Rechaka, Puraka, Kumbhaka. So when we are accomplished in the act of pranayamic inhalation, pranayamic exhalation, when all the precautions are taken care of, then it becomes Rechaka, Puraka, Kumbhaka. All exhalations, inhalations and retentions are not Rechaka, Puraka, Kumbhaka. So this is to be understood and not to dabble with the words. That somebody taught to take in breath. It should not be called Puraka Pranayam. This is like learning license. So there are many things absent. Skill is absent, proficiency is absent, control is absent, the judgment is absent, anticipation is absent. So many things are absent when somebody is learning to drive a car. And therefore, we can't say he is driving a car. Although act is see to be driving the car. He is learning to drive a car. So to include learning of pranayam, he has used these words which justify in definition. So you heard about what is Bhaya, Abhyantara Vritti, Stambha Vritti as now. And the retentive phase. It is important to count the retentive phase when it is natural thing. It should be considered as retentive phase. If you are retaining the breath for voluntary purpose, like you are dipping into the waters and retaining the breath, then you are voluntarily doing it. Because if you breathe, then you will not be comfortable in the water. So naturally the retentions are taking place. They have a role to play, and that role has to be identified by a student of yoga, that retention is also part of breath. Okay.
Yes. And the distinction between Bhaya, Abhyantara and Stambha Vritti with respect to Rechaka, Puraka, etc., that is an important one. And in fact, even someone accomplished may choose to say do Prashvasa Purvaka Gatya Bhavaha, but which is not completely satisfying the definition of Rechaka. And still, that is a Bhaya Vritti Pranayama that is being performed quite deliberately by an accomplished yogi, and not necessarily what is known as Rechaka. Because here there are more factors. There is a Desha, Kala, Sankhya, and Rechaka is a very specific definition. So this is a broader description of pranayam and its various aspects being done in this Sutra 2.50. So now we have looked at Bhaya, Abhyantara and Stambha Vritti, as well as what Vyasa has said about it, with reference to some references from other texts as well. So we'll stop here for today. Next time we can take the triad of Desha, Kala, Sankhya, and how the pranayama is paridrishtaha by that, how it can be examined from those perspectives, as the pranayama which is described here as Dirgha Sukshmaha. Okay, so let's recite the shlokas on Guruji and stop for today. Vaijñānikam pravaktritva आसनेषु कलाविदम् योगाभ्यासे च तत्त्वज्ञम् वन्देऽहं सुन्दरं गुरुम् योगवृक्षो हि लोकेऽस्मिन् यत्प्रेरणेन वर्धितः योगाचार्य गुरो तुभ्यं सुन्दराय नमो नमः. Thank you.
Namaskar.